Welcome to This Week in Guns, commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz, brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network. I'm your guest host, Adam Kraut, wearer of many hats, including that of attorney at law. You make this program possible. That's right, you. Simply click through our Amazon affiliate link the next time you're shopping online, and a small portion of your sale goes to supporting pro-gun shows like This Week in Guns. Well, we have a great panel with us this evening. We have Josh Cass from Four Guys Guns, the quote-unquote expert. How you doing, Josh?
Pleasure to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. We have John Patton from the Gun Collective and Patton Media Consulting. How you doing, John?
Hey, Adam. How are you, buddy? You okay? You all right? You all right? You're hosting tonight. It's your first time hosting by yourself. How do you feel?
I feel like an adult. It's actually an amazing feeling.
Adam Adulting House.
There you go. And we have Nate Murr from Kinetic Development Group, recoil writer and inventor of the Grip Stop. How you doing, Nate?
Good. How's everybody doing? It's good to be back on.
We're doing great. And I, of course, am Adam Kraut, a Firearms Industry Consulting Group, a division of Prince Law Offices PC. And as always, our obligatory warning, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. Well, we have some new patches coming from Patriot Patch Company. The pre-order is up for the Make Your Own Damn Sandwich patch. And it actually might not be a pre-order now that I'm looking at it. Take a look at it. It is a pretty gnarly patch, and they are available now. Email sign up. You get a chance to win a patch a month, so sign on up for the emails. And there's a new Patreon Perks program where you can hang out with the hosts. That's right, people like myself, John, Nate, and Josh after the podcast. So go on, check out Patreon, and of course, you know, your donation helps support programs like This Week in Guns. Also, if you're going to be down at the NRA show in Louisville in May, Saturday night at 7 p.m., you can come hang out with the Firearms Radio Network crew. So we'll get started with this week's top stories. Apparently, we've got...
Hold on, stop the presses. There are people that have signed up for the Hangout thing. I'm excited.
Are there?
Yes, there
People are going to
two-
actually come see us? That's cool.
They're going to hang out with us after this, apparently. Maybe, I don't know if Jake wants to do it tonight since, Kraut's hosting, but this is going to be fun.
They're going to hear about all the horrible...
All the horrible things we have to say.
Yeah.
You are going to sit there and listen to all the stupid shit I have to say. Timestamp.
If you think we're abrasive here, wait till you see us in person.
You just timestamp like 2 minutes in? This is
Yeah.
going to be horrible.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, somebody write that down because I'm not keeping track of that. So this week's top stories, we're starting with some positive news. Family kills escaped murderer that took them hostage.
So positive.
Doesn't get any more positive than that.
Screw bluebirds.
This is going
yeah.
to be... Dude, they're going to make this into a movie. This is like a terrible story, but the good guys win. So I like that part of it.
Why don't you take us through it then, Nate?
All right, so in Vicksburg, Mississippi, an escaped murder suspect who had been on loose for a week forced his way into a family's home. Basically, you have a 30-year-old man and his 5-year-old son and their wife, and they the suspect forced his way in, took him hostage, tied him up in the bathroom. The dad managed to break free and tried to fight the suspect. This guy, the bad guy's name is McLeod, but
There can be only one.
yes. Anyway, so the homeowner fought the guy. The guy stabbed him in the back, like re-tied him up. At some point, the mom actually managed to escape and retrieve a firearm. She shot the bad guy, untied her husband. Her husband proceeded to put a couple more rounds into the guy, which, you know, some people would be like, oh yeah, you know, they're just taking care of business. But in reality, just because you're shot once doesn't mean you're not a threat anymore. So, you know, the guy was probably still trying to fight them even with a round in him. And if it was a hanging round, I can definitely believe that. So they ended up putting a couple more rounds in the guy and put him down and won their right of freedom. And unfortunately, Mr. McLeod succumbed to his injuries. So there's a fresh soul in hell.
Hooray!
I guess that's how you solve
McLeod
it.
was charged with murder, rape, burglary, arson, auto theft, and felony possession of a firearm. But you know what? He was getting his life back together. He was really putting himself into his music. I can't do it. I can never do it.
Just remember, if you ever feel bad about yourself, there's still somebody from your hometown trying to become a rapper.
Oh, jeez. This would be the week. Jake's like, hey, Adam, do you want to host the show? All right. Obama nominates a judge with, quote, liberal view on gun rights, end quote. So I don't know if any of you have been paying attention, but after Scalia died, there was a lot of hubbub about whether or not Obama would be nominating a person to replace Scalia on the court. There's been a lot of talk from both sides of the aisle, Democrats screaming they need to have these confirmation hearings, and Republicans saying, we'll wait till after the elections, after the American people have decided the next president, and let the next president do it. So Obama has apparently put forth Merrick Garland, who was a circuit court judge in the Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, who is a very liberal judge and has a terrible voting record when it comes to firearms rights. So
he was a big supporter of the 1994 assault weapons ban.
yeah.
I found this really cool letter signed by him where he's making it out where it's this wonderful thing and really admitting like how big of a supporter he is. But he also supported the DC gun ban in 2007 and also opposes virtually anything that involves the Second Amendment. So this dude is not our ally. He is not a good guy.
It's not just our ally, though. I mean, in all honesty, it's the country's ally.
Yeah.
If you're not impartial, then how are you going to be a judge? If you're already leaning in a certain direction, it doesn't even matter. Let's say it's not guns. Let's say it's candy. Let's say it's freaking,
He's so anti-candy.
Well, I don't know, like Whitey, it's one of those things where if you don't care about the Constitution, then it might not be an issue to you. Like, there's a lot of everybody has their hot button topics, the things that really set them off. For some people, it's one thing or the other. And for me, universally, I look at the Constitution as one of the most perfect documents ever crafted. Right? Think about it like this: our founding fathers just fought a war of independence against the most powerful military on the face of the earth. They knew what it was like to live under the rule of a king. They had all the power. And you know what they did? They said, hey, we can't hold this power. We absolutely have to give the power to the people, or else this same thing will happen all over again, and we'll be under a different tyrannical rule. So they did that. They crafted a document that basically gave all that power to the people. The First Amendment, obviously, was a very important one. That's one of the reasons, there's a lot in the First Amendment that provoked the American Revolution, and then the Second Amendment was the second thing on the list to be able to support, the entire document, support everything else that they wanted to give back to the people. So I don't know, it's one of those things where I say he's not a friend of ours, but I would say the dude's not a friend of the Constitution, period.
Yeah, and that unfortunately doesn't get recognized enough by the American people. They don't realize that somebody that is willing to kind of downplay the value of the Constitution in one way will certainly do it in another. The
Supreme Court is the highest it gets. Period. There is no room for any kind of bias, is what I'm trying to get at. You can't lean in a direction. So the fact that somebody with that kind of record would even be put forward, and people think that's okay, whether it was guns or not, whether it was Fourth Amendment, First Amendment, whatever.
Yeah, but it's not just the
okay.
Supreme Court that leans one way or the other. You know what I mean? Virtually every politician, including the candidates currently running for the presidency, they're very clear about what they support and they don't support. What I'm saying is, I think it's bizarre, and I agree with you, Whitey, that they should be unbiased, and they should have, one, the interest in protecting the Constitution. Look at it like this. Every person that joins the military, and every cop that's sworn in the office, and I don't know with the justice system, Adam, but the military and law enforcement, they swear an oath, not to the American people, not to the president, but to defend the Constitution of the United States of America, right? That's your priority number one. That's your modus operandi to be a public servant to the people. So, like, I don't understand how now we have politicians, we have Supreme Court judges that are like, yeah, I'm going to pick and choose what part I'm going to defend and I'm going to support. Like, I don't understand how that's acceptable. But that's what our culture's become.
Yeah, it certainly is an interesting thing. You obviously have people who believe the Constitution is a living, breathing document, and then you have other individuals who believe that the text of the Constitution is what it is, and that there's mechanisms within it to be able to change what it means. So if you don't like the Second Amendment, instead of coming up with case law to slowly tear it down, you could go through the amendment process to remove it, for instance, or same with any other amendment. Second Amendment being because we're talking about guns, but there are oaths of office for attorneys, and I was trying to find the one that I had to say before I was sworn in as an attorney, but it pretty much generally the same kind of thing to some degree, as far as protect and serve and defend the Constitution, just in a different capacity, if you will. So,
yeah, if you find that, I'd be curious to know if the actual word Constitution is in that oath that you took.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, virtually every oath I've ever taken, I swear an oath to the Constitution.
I pulled this one up, and I don't know if it's correct or not. Its oath of office is, before entering the duties of his office, each attorney at law shall take and subscribe the following oath or affirmation before a person authorized to administer oaths. And it says, quote, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this Commonwealth, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity, as well to the court as to the client, that I will use no falsehood nor delay the cause of any person for lustre or malice, end quote. So,
I guarantee, based on Justice Garland's age, or Judge Garland's age, that he took a very similar oath at some point when he was starting
probably
out. But
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But I guess it depends on his interpretation of what supporting and defending the Constitution is. May be very different than what you and I believe. So, all right, moving on, we have reduced gun deaths by simply implementing these 3 laws. So, researchers at Boston University have identified apparently 3 different things that if they were implemented in other states, it would drive down gun-related deaths. And they linked substantial drops in firearms-related deaths, apparently, to universal background checks for number 1, background checks on those buying ammunition for number 2, and a requirement that gun owners get their firearms microchipped or fingerprinted for identification.
Yeah, I know. That one had me giggling too.
Yeah.
Well, this was written by Melissa Healy, who I think we should all recognize that name as a firearms expert.
Yeah.
She's pretty much the authority on these things. What a
She's a health
crock.
and science reporter, so that's why.
You know what? You know what would reduce vehicular stuff is the government having the ability to shut your car off remotely and track you at all times and do whatever the hell they want with your car.
The
That
government
would
should
really
the
help.
government should just outlaw the private ownership of personally owned vehicles. We have public transit. I mean,
Right.
I don't think we should trust
Clearly.
people to drive buses. You can't have people die in drunk driving accidents if they're not allowed to drive, right?
There's also, I think, some laws already in place. Don't kill people. Don't commit crimes.
It's going to be more illegaler.
Yeah,
More illegal.
More laws.
Is there a country in the entire world where murder is not illegal?
Sharia law.
Yeah.
But no.
There's countries where you can like kind of get away with it.
Well, there's a difference between getting away with it and culturally it's acceptable to flat out murder somebody. Like, as much as I don't want to support, the extremist Islamic movement that's sweeping across the world, I would say that, like, them killing an infidel is sanctioned by Sharia law and their culture, right? What I'm saying is, like, that's a universal thing where murder is illegal pretty much everywhere. I can't think of a place where I've ever been where murder wasn't illegal in one way or the other.
Right.
It's just stupid. What I'm saying is, like, like I think Adam explained it one time what exactly a law is. And a law acts, it's a social contract that everybody buys into. Everybody agrees that this is something we're going to do or we're not going to do. And if you violate that principle, then there's going to be penalties in form of jail time or what have you. So the thing is, it's a preventative measure, and that's really all it is. It's supposed to be like if you murder somebody, you're going to get the death sentence or you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life. So that's going to discourage you from trying to get away with it.
Well, that's the idea. I mean, laws are only as good as people willing to obey them.
And our willingness to enforce them.
Well, that being, yep, absolutely, that being the other side of the coin. If you're not willing to enforce them or you don't enforce them, there's got to be some.
What's the bloody point?
Right.
Well, I think is that article in here? There's a senator who just got charged for like attempted murder or something, and he's gonna have I saw that.
The guy up in what was it, Michigan, Minnesota.
Yeah, did you see that? I'm not sure if
it's
in our
I know what you're referring to. I don't think it's in here.
That would have been it would have been a good article. But yeah, he's basically getting a slap on the wrist is what it equates to, and people are rapists and murderers that are getting out of jail after just a couple years served. It's just I don't even think people are scared to commit crime anymore. The repercussions aren't as bad as they used to be. Collectively, we've lost our resolve to see that kind of stuff through.
You also have the some animals are more equal than other animals thing going.
More of that.
Animal Farm, if you will.
I do like it.
So, interesting study. I don't buy it though. Just me.
It's pseudoscience, like most of those studies are. So,
the Kalamazoo shooter. Uber app made me do it.
This is amazing.
I mean, I've never used Uber, mainly because I don't have to, but apparently an ex-Uber driver from Michigan accused of killing 6 people and leaving 2 others injured when he went on a shooting spree last month, apparently blames the transportation application for his deadly actions. The gentleman who believed the app included satanic symbols said it took over his mind and body and told him where to go and who to kill.
He's doing the Son of Sam defense. I like it.
He was also apparently prepared to engage in a shootout with the authorities as they moved to apprehend him, but the Uber app directed him otherwise and the officers' lives were spared. I think that should really read he decided that he didn't want to get into a shootout and gave up.
So I would like to describe the picture here of this guy for the people that may not be able to see the article on guns.com here. So there's a very popular movie called Office Space, and there's a guy that gets interviewed about what he does for that company. And they kind of ask him, and he says, I take the specs from the engineers to the software developers, and that's pretty much it. And he then goes and freaks the F out. And this is that kind of guy. This looks like the kind of guy that would freak out if he had one too many pepperonis on his slice of pizza. Like, why is it on there? Like, that's this guy. Thanks for the pity laugh, Murr.
No, I mean, I picked up what you were putting down. But it's still such a bizarre shooting. Like, for this dude, like, the whole thing is just bizarre. Like, I can believe that he believed that Uber was telling him to go do stuff, because the circumstance, the timeline, everything about this shooting, about the series of murders, it's bizarre. It wasn't thought out. It didn't seem really premeditated. The guy had a fair number of firearms, but he only had one firearm with him. He had a really terrible handgun with him, and like he didn't go to work that day like dressed for war. He snapped that day. He was probably suffering some sort of psychological issue, and
I thought he
was being crazy.
Well, that's the thing. Is like with him talking about like doing a psychiatric evaluation before you can buy a gun and all that other stuff. The problem with mental illness is that people can slip in and out of that out of that issue, out of that problem. There's somebody, you can be perfectly healthy mentally, and then one day, without any signs whatsoever, you cease to be mentally healthy. There's people that are mentally unhealthy and become healthy again, either through medicine or through therapy or whatever. You know, it'd be like saying, like, if you went and fought in a war and you suffer from PTSD, you can never own a firearm ever again. You know, like I'm a firm believer that yes, PTSD is a real thing, and a lot of servicemen suffer from that, and people that are involved in deadly force encounters, such as cops and private citizens, they you know, people go to therapy over a car accident. So why wouldn't you suffer the same things from shooting people? You know, but people move past that with the proper care, and they've returned to 100% mental health. You know, but if you don't seek that treatment, if you don't know that you have something wrong, then you might not be able to do it. So I'm saying, like, sometimes I think we're dismissive to call these people insane or crazy. That might be the case sometimes. Other times it could just be a momentary lapse. You know, like they woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Like, violence in human history is not a new thing. The only thing that's changed is the things that we use to do it. You know, there's people that hurt people every day for absolutely no reason other than their own personal pleasure. So it's not always the answer that the person's crazy, or like, oh, well, he was crazy and he shouldn't have had access to guns. Maybe he acquired those guns when he was mentally well, and then unfortunately he became unwell. The whole case is just bizarre to me. But this defense, usually I would say this is like a crock, you know, it's just a bunch of BS, but I can honestly believe this guy believing what he's saying about, like, the satanic symbols, and Uber commanded him to go, you know, kill people. And that's why I said in the beginning, like, the Son of Sam defense, like, that dude said that his neighbor's dog was commanding him to go commit these murders, and the guy believed it. You know,
I never trusted Uber. Not once. Don't trust the .u ever.
The umlaut.
It's an umlaut, yeah.
Pennsylvania High Court hears preemption law challenge.
This sounds like something Adam Kraut was involved in.
No, but good guess.
Fluff the coffers there, Adam.
So last year, before, what was it, last year, 2014, I guess it was 2014, 2 years ago, and before our former governor, Corbett, left office, the House and Senate passed what was known as Act 192. We already, taking a step back real quick, we already have a preemption statute that existed prior to this. All this did was amend it and give it some teeth, if you will, so that individuals who were attempting to have the preemption enforced also had a way to recover attorney's fees and stuff from the municipality or city that was violating their rights.
I have a question. I need you to dumb this down.
Sure. Basically, prior to this being signed into law, if a municipality or a city passed an ordinance that was not in line with what the state said, so it regulated firearms in some capacity, it would be violative of the preemption statute. State law controls all, right? Everything else has got to fall in line. If you don't like it, you have the same ability as everyone else to go petition your person in the General Assembly and change it statewide. So if a city said, yeah, you know what, we're going to do this on our own, and you as a resident of that city or township, municipality, whatever, said, yeah, no, you can't do it, I'm going to sue you, well, you would be out the attorney's fees for that. You wouldn't have a mechanism to get them back, really, and there would be nothing to dissuade that municipality, city, or township, or what have you, from implementing this, because they wouldn't be on the hook for anything. The court would overturn, and they say, okay, right? So this gave people an ability to recover some of that cost, and it also put that hurt on the city or municipality, so that way they would not want to engage in this kind of behavior. So this, after it was passed, was challenged rather quickly. And during the legislative debate, this was brought up. So in Pennsylvania, we have in our Constitution a requirement that laws be single subject. So you can't, in theory, have a law on, I don't know, dog care on one end and, like, I don't know, copper theft on another. So this one actually happened to start as a copper theft bill, which was amended, and then this stuff was added in.
So like when the regular government tries putting like a gun control bill on a budgetary committee hearing,
Yeah, it was designed to prevent like log rolling and stuff from passing in the middle of the night, so that people could have an idea as what was being passed in the General Assembly.
Gotcha.
So this got challenged by somewhat local Senator Dalen Leach, who we'll just timestamp there and keep moving on. And he's quoted here as saying this bill had two totally unrelated things thrown together on the last day of session, specifically to avoid the single subject rule. So the Commonwealth Court last June found it unconstitutional the way it was passed, and it was appealed up to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, and I believe it was last week there was a hearing in Philadelphia that actually my boss attended, where they had an oral argument on the matter, and it doesn't seem like it went all that well, so it would seem to, and we don't have a decision yet, but it seems likely that they're probably going to find that it was unconstitutional, which means it'll put us back to where we previously were, and we'll have the ability to hopefully get it passed through again in the future here, only correctly this go-around. There are arguments that could have been made that weren't made that might have helped it some, but there were currently 5 Democrats on the Supreme Court bench, so it was kind of an uphill battle to begin with. Good enough?
Wow.
Questions, comments, concerns? Yeah. So, better luck next time.
So, in other news,
Indiana gun rights advocates build a wall and get taxpayers to pay for it.
is Trump running Indiana?
This is so stupid. You had a small town judge who banned firearms from his courtroom, and the citizens. I'm assuming this is a really small little courthouse, right? Like if I go to my local courthouse, I can go in. There's a sheriff's deputy there at the search train at the metal detector. I'm like, hey, I have my CCW. I'm currently carrying. The guy escorts me to a locker, and I lock my pistol. I go do my business in the courthouse. When I leave, I recover my weapon, and I go home, right? So apparently the judge didn't like guns in the building. So they basically built a wall at the cost of $25,000 to separate the court from the rest of the building so people can continue to bring their firearm into the courthouse per their right.
What?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the quote from the judge is pretty stupid, right? He said, "The result that we came to, were they happy with it? I don't believe so. Was I completely happy with it? No. Do they agree with me? No. Do I agree with them? No. But if everybody's leaving the negotiating table slightly unhappy, we probably reached the best result there was."
What?
I don't think it was that bad of a statement. It sounds like it was probably really heated, and they probably all got away with the bare minimum of what they were hoping for. And
But it was easy to say, if everybody's leaving the table unhappy, then that's like the best result we can ever hope for. And if that's on a local level of government, what's that say about all forms of government?
We're screwed.
Well,
But it was basically $25,000 that got spent and didn't need to get spent. It's just ridiculous. Like they have a picture. I don't know, like if this is actual picture from the courthouse, but they have like the metal detector and little card tables with
flippable angry tables. I'm out of here.
Laundry table with what appears to be little baskets they stole from the local eatery for you to put your keys and change and stuff in. The thing is, they could have just put a wall locker, up next to that display case or something. So you go through the search train, you secure your pistol, you go do your thing. They didn't have to build a wall to separate the building. It's just ridiculous. It's so stupid.
Might not be as stupid as this next one. Everytown for gun safety suit against the ATF closed, but agreement still pending. So it appears that the case between Everytown for Gun Safety, the Bloomberg Group, and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Fun over records request has reached a milestone where the Gun Control Group has the option to either accept an agreement or start from scratch. So they had requested last summer. All right. I don't know if it was last summer, but they filed a complaint against ATF last summer for the agency's failure to include information on the time to crime for firearms found at crime scenes in response to its FOIA request for their aggregate trace data from 1998 to 2005. ATF is tasked with tracing history of firearms recovered at crime scenes using the serial number and other details to trace it back to the original dealer and purchaser. Apparently on its website they provide data back to 2006, but anything prior to that is not available. They had their initial request in 2013, and ATF has dodged their follow-up request for the information, although they did release the trace data for the dates requested. This is actually really interesting to me because I have a FOIA request from when I was still in law school that's still pending with ATF, and if memory serves, I believe by law they have, it's either 30 or 60 days, I want to say, to respond to a FOIA request. And this is not uncommon for ATF from what I understand. So it's interesting that somebody on the other side is getting the same exact kind of treatment that somebody that I've gotten and a number of others have. Interestingly, ATF has argued the documents requested are exempt from disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act and denied allegations that they have failed to respond to the requests.
I didn't realize they got to decide what's okay to share.
So there's in the statute there's certain things that are exempt from disclosure, and without looking at it, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what some of them are, but there's a list of things that, yep, these are things that are not available to you as a member of the public.
Sure.
Sensitive data, like sometimes addresses, phone numbers, things like that. So they'll have somebody that'll look through it and they'll make a determination as to, yep, this document is fine, or we'll redact this little bit of information here, or we'll redact this entire section here, so on and so forth before they turn it over. Or they may just say, yeah, that's exempt from disclosure, period. A lot of times they do provide a log as to what they're not disclosing and the reason for it, so that at least you have a basis to challenge them. If you decide that, yeah, that's something that should be disclosed, you can at least cite to what the document is and their reason and why you believe it's not. So, interesting interesting stuff there. At least I think it is.
Just the years alone is interesting to me, because that's... I mean, hey, you have 5 million Bic pens. I want you to find out who put this Bic pen together. That's... In those years, I mean, that's all shady guns. It's post Clinton, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's late 90s is when Glock really started taking off. There's a whole bunch of pre-ban this and post-ban that going around the country, traveling FFL dealers. There's no way. Like, why do you think there's so many pictures of police departments with like guns for days just right? No one's gonna shoot a bullet and do a serial number and go back to me. No one's gonna do that. It's just gonna sit there until they decide to throw them away.
Well, the traces, though, I think if what I understood correctly from reading it, what they're looking for is the trace data. So when a gun's like found at a crime scene, what they'll do is, assuming the serial number is still intact, they'll contact the manufacturer, say, hey, you made this model gun, serial number X. Who did you sell it to? Manufacturer will look in its A&D book and say, yep, we sold it to, I don't know, Joe Schmo distributor. And they'll call the distributor. Distributor will say, yeah, we sold it to XYZ gun shop. They'll call the gun shop. Gun shop, I sold it to John on this date. And they'll contact John and be like, yo, John, what happened to this gun? Well, I sold it at this dealer to that guy, and that's how they run a trace on it.
Who's going to do that?
Yeah, you don't want, they do it all the time.
Because no one's doing it.
The ATF does. I've had the ATF when I worked in the gun shop. I've had the ATF come in and do it. Right?
Yeah,
really.
Call a manufacturer. Manufacturer says it went to this distributor. Distributor says we signed it out to mom and pop gun shop. They go to mom and pop gun shop where the 4473 was originally conducted. They'll go get the physical copy, make copies of the 4473. Dude, the ATF's actually pretty good on stuff like this. Like, doing the trace, it's a very good system. You just don't want to be the last person in that line and not have a good reason why you don't have that gun. Oh, I don't know where it's at. Or, yeah, I sold it to this guy at work. Well, did you know he was a bad guy? Did you know he was a felon? Like, you just don't want to be the last one in that chain of custody when it comes to the firearm. But they actually solve a lot of cases that way. If they recover the firearm, that establishes a chain of custody for the firearm. So the point of origin is where you start, and you don't want to be the last guy to touch that gun.
Hold in the bag, yeah. Yeah, I had one I responded to the other day where they asked about two guns, went after the same person, and got contacted like 3 weeks later, and like, so you never responded. Okay, here's a copy of the email, and well, we closed out that one serial, so they just totally missed the other gun on there. But yeah, it's actually not very uncommon, Whitey. Some guys get it more than others, and then when they do, ATF really comes down with the hammer on them.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is like as a seller, you have the right to refuse service. So if like a woman comes in, here's an example because this happened in real life. A woman came in with a paper list of guns, and she couldn't even pronounce the guns. Like Glock, do you have a Glock 19, like Glock, you know? It was like a laundry list. It was like a couple $1,000s worth of handguns. And that's what like criminals will do is they'll find somebody who just turned 21 or a girlfriend who is sympathetic to them, who has a clean record, and they'll go straw purchase. So it's one of those things where it's like if you have that feeling that you shouldn't be selling this gun to the person, you don't have to. And if you live near, like, say, a major metropolis, that's going to happen a hell of a lot more often than if you live out in the country, because it's just more bad people trying to acquire guns that way. Like, I guarantee Adam deals with it more than I did living, you know, further away from Philadelphia than he does.
I did not know that.
The more you know.
Dun, 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 dun.
Knowing's half the battle.
Magpul sues Gibbs Arms over patent infringement.
Good. I am so happy for this. Like, regardless how you feel about Magpul, right or wrong, they're an American company that makes 100% of their stuff here in America. They employ a lot of people, and I personally like them being the titan that they are because they do chase down people. It's very rare for Magpul to lose a lawsuit. So basically, if you don't know the backstory on this, Gibbs Arms recently sent out a bunch of letters to people that manufacture M-LOK and M-LOK accessories. So for my line of work, this obviously brought concern to me because my company makes M-LOK accessories and M-LOK handguards. So they're trying to say that Magpul ripped them off and that they filed their patent before Magpul and all this other nonsense. Bear in mind, M-LOK has been on the market for almost 2 years now, and you have over 250 manufacturers making M-LOK handguards and accessories, right? So they had 2 years to bring this up. Like, Magpul launched it at Sofic 2 years ago. So like, I remember looking at it the day it came out, and Magpul walking me through and showing me the product. I'm like, this is brilliant. This is great. So anyway, they're countering with their own lawsuit against Gibbs, and you know what? They're probably going to win it, and I hope that they do because they're in the right here. I think personally, this is my personal opinion, is that Gibbs had a system that was never going to get off the ground. It was similar, but I've never even heard of Gibbs Arms until this whole debacle popped up, right? So it was nothing that was ever going to be embraced by the industry. You weren't going to have Bill Geisley and all these other companies like latching on and saying this is a great system from the day of inception, from the day it's released, right? It was never going to happen. So they sat there and waited and saw that it was becoming popular in the industry, and once the money was there and the laundry list of people for them to bring lawsuits against, that's when they brought up the whole patent infringement thing. To me, the whole thing reeks. I think it's shady. It doesn't feel right. I think that they're trying to maximize licensing rights. I think even if they were the original inventor of it, they didn't handle it appropriately. They didn't go through the process they should have. They didn't secure their patent soon enough. The whole thing is a train wreck. But I love M-LOK. I think M-LOK's the greatest mounting system there is right now, and I hope they win this lawsuit.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, after you.
Further. No, go, because I'm looking up something to this story.
Okay. I think Magpul's going to, quite honestly, crush them. Well, you're not looking for that letter update on it, are you?
No.
Okay. I saw it earlier this week.
Let me try and understand this completely. Gibbs basically walked into a lawsuit of their own? Like, they were like, oh, we did this first, and then they were like, oh, crap, we're getting sued? Is that kind of what happened?
Gibbs waited 2 years to bring a lawsuit against Magpul and then send letters out to everybody that makes M-LOK saying that they're infringing on their patent, right? Bear in mind that
that's a classy move.
It's an open license for Magpul. When Magpul launched M-LOK, all you have to do is make M-LOK within the specs that Magpul gives you, and you sign their letter of agreement, and it's royalty free. You don't have to pay Magpul anything to make an M-LOK accessory or an M-LOK handguard because it complements. It's like the first time in the industry that everybody got on board and tried to standardize the system. It didn't work with KeyMod, and it's not going to work for KeyMod. M-LOK is the new Picatinny rail, right? Just like back in the 90s when Pic Rail came out. Picatinny rail came out from Picatinny Arsenal, New Jersey. It was developed for the military, and the engineers developed it. They developed it off the Weaver rail. There was no system that was standard at that time. So Pic Rail became the standard in the military, and here we are like 25 years later. Finally, we have a lighter weight, easier to machine, easier to use system, and it's a great system. It's a wonderful system. But that's what I'm saying is I personally feel that they took their time. They had the better part of 2 years to bring this. And if they were that upset about it, they should have said something the month that Magpul launched M-LOK. But they didn't. They waited 2 years. And then they started sending letters, cease and desist letters out to people, and creating a stir about this. Basically what they did was they poked the bear. They poked the titan of polymer. You know, Magpul is one of the most successful American companies in the firearm industry. They're going to throw, if they got to pull Johnny Cochran out of retirement to get him on this case, they're going to. Like they're
gonna dig him up and
they're gonna figure out a way, right? They're gonna get the best lawyers and they will throw however much money they need to make this company go away, and they're gonna be successful with it. And I hope that they are, because like I said, if this company was actually in the right, if Gibbs Arms was actually being wronged by Magpul, then the evidence would be there, and I think Magpul would just settle with them. They would figure something out. They would probably settle out of court, give them like a couple $1 million or whatever it might be, more than they would ever make with their own system. Because I said, like, without that clout of Magpul behind M-LOK, it never would have gotten off the ground. Without people like Geisley getting on board, companies like my company getting, like everybody. By the end of the first 6 months, you had over 100 manufacturers making M-LOK accessories. I've never seen that before for anything in this industry. Anything. So I think it's money. I think it's purely money driven is what I think.
Oh, absolutely. Why else would you?
You can always sue somebody over something, right, Adam?
That's right.
That's America.
Who have you sued today? No,
I thought what you were looking for, Josh.
I thought Gibbs Arms originally was like the OEM for JJFU, but I'm not seeing that at the beginning of their Instagram feed like I think it once was. I may be confusing that with someone else, so I don't want to. But if it,
I know who you're talking about, Aeronox.
There you go. I think that's what it was. So never mind.
So there was a letter earlier this week I saw that I guess Magpul was bringing an update on their attorneys or something that was released, basically saying that the Gibbs system, the way it functions, was systematically different anyway than the Magpul one. So this will be interesting. I don't really foresee Gibbs being able to prevail. I mean, merit-wise, who knows? Probably not. I'm going to guess not. But financially, they're not going to have the pockets to litigate against Magpul forever.
Let's talk about the residual effects of this on their business. Like, this is a bold move, because what you're saying to your customer is, you know what, we're going to sue this company even though we're technically wrong. Like,
they very well could believe they're not wrong.
Well, right. Understood, but if they lose, you understand, like, there's perception involved here, and people will, like, this is going to hurt their business.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where, like, when you release a system, if you have a new technology that's that unique and that special, you patent it. You patent in every possible way you can so that nobody can infringe on it. There's no, like, look at, like, the whole thing with the Glock magazine extensions. I'll use this as an example, right? A certain company virtually patented every possible way of putting an extension onto a Glock magazine. So for decades, nobody could really come up with anything new because of how protected it is. Charging handles for AR-15s are another example of that. That there's only so many ways to make a Glock extension. There's only so many different ways to make a charging handle. So if you protect that and you patent every possible way that you can conceive to make a product, then you protect yourself very well. And if anybody produces something very similar to it, then they're going to infringe on your patent, and you can send them a cease and desist, and you're going to be in the right. That's the whole point of the patent office.
Or they pay you.
Or you can choose to license the design out to them, right? Which is what Magpul did, but they did it as a royalty-free license. What I'm saying is, like, when you launch a product, if it's that unique and that special and that it's going, you think it's going to be that successful, you get all your ducks in a row, you protect it with your patents before anybody sees it. And when you release it on the market, it's already got patent pending stamped on it, or it's already fully patent. You got your certificate back. You got, it's 100% square and good to go. If you sit on an idea, here's the thing: you can come up with an idea first. You can be the first person to do something. But if you don't move on it, if you don't produce, this is where agility is insanely important in this industry, because it causes a lot of strife and people get really upset about it. You might be the first person to come up with it, but if you didn't protect it and manufacture it, especially with the patent, then when somebody else comes to the same conclusion as you and they get their own patent because you didn't get your own patent and you didn't protect it well enough, and they bring it to market before you and they're more successful than you, you don't have a right to get angry about it. You didn't do your job. You didn't move fast enough. You didn't protect it well enough. Like I can understand why people get upset about it, but look at it, like the AR-15. You have over 200 companies making AR-15s. How many ways are there to make an AR-15? Like, you've seen one, you've seen them all.
Approximately 200.
205, if you ask me.
Some shoot better than others. Some are more reliable than others. Some have nicer features than others. But it's a rehashed 1950s design. Like everybody's just doing. There's only so many ways to make a magazine release. There's only so many ways to make a bolt catch release. Like if you come up with it and you don't do anything with it, don't be surprised when somebody else comes to the same conclusion. That's what I'm saying with that. So even if Gibbs did have a similar system, they didn't do a good enough job. They didn't move on it fast enough. They didn't protect it well enough. I don't think Magpul ripped it off. I don't believe that.
Are you sure that you're siding with Magpul on this one? I'm unclear on that.
I'm 100% with Magpul.
I know. I'm messing with you.
Cops AR-15 dust cover inscription used against him in court. Mesa police officer charged with second-degree murder for an on-duty shooting in January pleaded not guilty during his first court appearance Tuesday. So the backstory to this is the guy had inscribed on the inside of his dust cover, "You're effed."
Nice.
And there's some more that goes along with the story. Apparently the gentleman who he shot was down on his hands and knees when he was shot 5 times.
God.
It was a personal AR-15 that had been approved for service use by the police department. There's some question from other articles I've read as to whether the guy on the ground was a potential threat or not. That remains unclear to me, so I'm not going to say so one way or another. But this does raise a very interesting point, because I know I see it all the time on the internet when it gets into, should I carry a modified gun, or what if I have the Punisher logo as my back slide plate thing on my Glock, or I have inscribed on my dust cover, and or I use my own reloaded self-defense ammo. Ultimately, my opinion, and this is just my opinion, this isn't legal advice or anything like that. My opinion is that if it's a justified shoot, it's a justified shoot. Right. If it's unjustified, you're kind of like what the dust cover says. You're effed. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Was this a righteous shoot?
That's unclear. From everything I've read, I don't know.
If the cop burned down a bad guy like an old wooden house, then who cares what was on his gun? If the crime warranted deadly force, then who cares what gun he had or what was written on it or what color it was?
It's unclear. Like that's why they're picking things apart. Just like when somebody goes on a shooting spree and they bought 511 pants the day before.
Yeah, and then this is what they're doing. They're on a fishing expedition. Is what they're.
The problem with this is that if they go ahead and they say, yeah, we should go ahead and talk about that and use this as evidence and let it through, and then this guy does get in a lot of friggin' trouble, goes down for murder. Well, that's now, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but now all those other things, like the color of my trigger, the type of sights I use, all those things now become like, you were looking to kill somebody.
Look, I think there's a difference between performance-enhancing parts. Like, if you have a factory handgun and you have bad sights or sights that don't work and allow you to shoot the most proficiently and accurately as possible, so you change them out for aftermarket sights, I don't think anybody's ever going to bring up the fact that you have aftermarket sights on your handgun, right? Especially with Glock, because basically all of them ship with those terrible plastic sights. So what's everybody do? They put aftermarket performance-enhancing parts on it, right? What I'm saying is I think there's a difference between having a nicer trigger and better sights and actual performance-enhancing parts to your weapon and having cosmetic things like the Punisher skull or this inscription of the guy. Look, I personally think most of this stuff is hokey as hell anyway. It's cheesy, it's stupid, and you're inviting yourself to criticism, and obviously you're opening yourself and ridicule. And here, now that you're actually in an officer-related shooting, the guy's being judged because of this, right?
Hold on. I just want to slide this in there before we get too far from it. If anyone at home has the Punisher backplate on their Glock, I just want to remind you that you are not the Punisher, and you should take that off immediately because you are an asshole.
Time stamp.
But I'm saying there's a difference between that and like you having like, I don't know, like you see this could be contorted any way you want. You could have like John 3:16 on your plate, right? And they're like, oh, you're a religious fanatic, and as a Christian you happen to shoot a Muslim,
right?
And it was a hate crime. What I'm saying is like, if that's what they're going on, if that's what they're harping on, then I don't think they have much of a case. If that's what they're putting so much emphasis on, to demonize the officer and make him seem like a bad guy, then obviously their case against him is pretty weak. That's what I'm saying. But at the same time, I don't think that you should have stuff like that, particularly in a professional role as a cop. You probably shouldn't have "you're effed" inscribed on your dust cover. You shouldn't have stuff like that. So what I'm saying is like there's lots of people who carry bone stock weapons as CCW holders as private citizens, and most police departments mandate that you have to have a stock as issued handgun, which I don't agree with. If you have the ability to install performance-enhancing parts that allows you to shoot more accurately, you're initiating that weapon. So having a nicer trigger, if it allows you to shoot better, then you should be able to have that and not be criticized for it. What I'm saying is, like, I don't think this is the kind of stuff that... Don't let that performance-enhancing stuff scare you away from modding your gun if you're allowed to, if you're able to, particularly as a private citizen. As a cop, you should stay within the department policy so you don't get jimmy jammed like this guy's, like they're trying to do this officer.
Well,
right?
He's an idiot.
Move your microphone closer to your mouth, Nate. It's an interesting thing because you hear that discussion all the time on forums, and I think if I recall correctly, I want to say it was Arizona. There was a guy who got convicted for using a 10mm handgun to defend himself because 10mm was for killing, everything except, defending yourself. I remember watching the Zimmerman trial, and whether or not it was something that they were going to attempt to harp on, or whether it was just the firearms expert from the police department just testifying about the features of the firearm, I do very clearly remember them discussing the trigger pull weight. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come back to whether or not you were justified in the shoot or not.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and granted, if you get a district attorney or an assistant district attorney up there who's going to harp on you for, I don't know, having your slide Cerakoted silver and thinking you're some kind of vigilante, if a jury buys it, you gotta be smart. I agree with what your points are, and I think if you're making modifications to your gun to make you a better shooter with it, so that you're more precise, more accurate, more what have you, I think you're well within your right to do so. I carry a modded gun.
If you can't write a 3-paragraph essay for each component part that you added to your gun, then it probably shouldn't be on your weapon. It shouldn't be there. Right? If you can't,
that is a great statement.
If you can't explain. If you can't explain in a clear, concise, logical manner why you put it on your firearm, other than it looked cool or like, oh man, the Punisher. Like if you can't explain it in an intelligent way, then it probably shouldn't be on your weapon, and it definitely shouldn't be. Yeah, it definitely shouldn't be on your life or death gun, i.e. your CCW gun or your duty weapon as a cop. It shouldn't be there. If you can't explain it,
the Punisher though.
Yeah. What I'm saying is like, for me, I don't like these stories because these stories scare people away from modding their firearms. Like, look, there's police departments where like you get issued a bone stock pistol, but then there's police departments where you don't get issued a pistol, and the department lets you choose what you want to buy. So if you want to go buy like a Zev custom $3,000 1911 or Glock or whatever, you can do it. You can carry whatever you want as long as you qualify with it. They keep records.
I do what I want.
Yeah, like what I'm saying is like department policy dictates. Like for say like you have really big hands and you're issued a Glock 19 and the Glock 17 fits you better, the department will allow you the large hand guy to have a larger pistol. In some departments, it's the opposite. If you have a smaller hand or it's a female shooter, the standard issue is the Glock 17, but they make an exception for the 19. The important thing is that you show proficiency with your firearm, and you do that by qualifying, right? Now, as private citizens, we don't have the ability to do that because there's no qualification. Well, some states have it for their CCW, but that's the thing is like I don't want this to be something that you're scared to put better sights on your gun because you're scared that some attorney someday is gonna. If you're sitting there in a courtroom and this is what they're harping on, you have bigger problems. Like to me, this is like a non-issue. This cop's gonna as long as the shooting was righteous, then this whole dust cover thing is gonna turn out to be nothing, not even worth talking about. And I think that's what it's gonna turn out to be. If he was justified to pull the trigger, then it doesn't matter what was on his gun.
But Murr, do you support Magpul?
Now, if Magpul could make like a Punisher logo factory magazine.
All right. Oh Felon acquired 40+ guns for resale. This one is.
Cool.
A 32-year-old Chicago man was indicted on federal gun charges last week.
Chicago?
Yeah,
No.
I see it ain't so.
The safest city in the country.
3 months after buying 2 firearms for an undercover agent, the Justice Department said. Lazario Salas, a known gang member, has been charged with dealing guns without a license and being a felon in possession of a firearm. He was arrested in January. If convicted, he could face up to 10 years in prison with a fine of $250,000. He apparently acted as a straw buyer from September 2013 to November 2015, buying between 40 and 60 guns. I'm sorry, they were tipped off by a confidential informant who acted as a straw buyer for him.
He became a confidential informant after he got pinched for something and said, listen, I got a bigger fish. I'll make a deal so I don't get a gun charge.
He was like, girl.
He used code words like gym shoes and video games for firearms. That's pretty clever.
You got them video games, dog? You got them
You
video
got them
games?
Yeezys, bro?
It'll be interesting to see what happens to him.
You got
Who
those
knows?
Jordan pumps.
Yeah.
Pumps.
I would love.
Jordan pumps?
Listen, Whitey, don't downplay Murr's dreams.
With those 12-gauge laces.
The
and the joke comes full circle.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I got it. There you go. Yeah.
United States Secret Service issues solicitation for a new service rifle.
Ooh.
They've put out a request for a new rifle, as reported by Soldier Systems Daily.
G36.
No.
These are, well, here are the dimensional requirements. Height, no taller than, and this is without accessories, 8.5 inches. No heavier than 7.5 pounds. Overall length, no longer than, with stock fully extended, 34 inches. Barrel length, 10 to 12. Rifling, it's a 5.56 gun, 1 in 7 twist right hand. Minimum service life of 20,000 rounds. They're going to use a direct impingement, gas, or a piston system. Mode of fire shall be select fire, and the fire control selector shall be ambidextrous in design. Interesting.
That's very interesting. I talked to a Secret Service friend of mine about this, and he said that the Secret Service like goes through guns like it's crazy.
Really?
It's like, look at like basically like their budget. You're protecting the president and a bunch of dignitaries. So if they want to get brand new guns every couple of years, nobody tells them no. You know what I mean?
Right.
But this is something that the Secret Service they've been saying that they want a carbine. They want to phase, like when Reagan was shot during an attempt against his life, you saw a Secret Service agent pull an old school Uzi out. So like for years they used submachine guns before body armor became more prevalent, and there's more of a need for a shorty centerfire rifle cartridge weapon that's capable of being disguised and hidden. So they want a little gun that is in a rifle caliber that they can conceal in plain clothes.
So not go with the P90 anymore?
the P90. See, the P90's always been a personal defensive weapon. It's not an assault rifle. It's not a true machine gun. It's like, oh, I know you want a rifle and you don't want to be reduced to a pistol, so here's a very little strange in between. The ballistics to 5.7 is arguable. There's a lot of people that aren't a big fan of it, and it's one of the reasons why you don't see a lot of people using the P90, just like you don't see a lot of people using the HK MP7. Like the SEALs were all about the MP7 for a little while, until they realized you had to dump a magazine into some dude's frontal lobe to get him to go down. The cartridge was an issue. So, I mean, like the P90 has its role, but it's not a universal role for every application. And like I said, like if I could only pick one rifle for any application, it'd be an AR-15. Like it serves so many different roles. But you know, you're going to see some interesting submissions to this, and it's going to be the usual companies and the usual fare. And hopefully the Secret Service gets the right gun for the job.
Well, it'll certainly be interesting.
It'll be a Phase 5 pistol.
Tanfoglio presents an AR-15 made in Europe.
Oh, there's something that nobody's gonna buy.
Yep. That's about all I got. You guys want to talk about that one, or?
No.
It looks really, really big. It looks like a 3-gun style thing.
I want a
A2 style stock. Looks like maybe a billet lower, tough to tell, and some bootleg carbon fiber forend.
So just out of curiosity, why is this such a stretch?
What country is it made in?
Tanfoglio is, I believe, Italian, but I'm not sure where this gun is actually
Massimo Tanfoglio. Yeah, he's probably Russian. So,
I just said it was Italian.
Do we live in a world where we make AK-47s in America and they make AR-15s in Europe?
But even then, I mean, anybody can get a CAD step file for an AR-15. You can download it right now. Plug it in the machine, make an AR-15. So, what do the Italians make out of machinery that everyone agrees is finely crafted, finely engineered?
Shotguns.
Cars, and shotguns.
So it's not that far of a stretch to think that a Tanfoglio could actually be a very nice and most likely overpriced AR-15.
Here's the thing, Tanfoglio, their current thing in the States is copies of the CC-75 or EAA Witness. That's where they live and breathe.
That's what I was going to say.
They've been in that kind of copy market for a long time. This they're saying these are going to have Lothar Walther barrels, which are very good quality. 223 Remington chambering as opposed to 5.56. It looks like it's going to be, I would guess, in the $1,200 to $1,500 area, but it's
what's that in euros?
I have no idea.
Well, Monopoly money.
But hey, I mean, this, I may pull back a little bit and say that this might do okay because it's different.
I do agree the carbon fiber is actually hideous. I'm not a huge fan of that exposed lip
looking.
like that.
With the silver screws. Well, look here, like the gun that website, like it's a billet upper and lower. Okay, so I can't even imagine the nightmare of trying to send forgings to Europe for them to be machined to get shipped back to America as a manufactured gun, right?
Is that what they have to do?
Well, no, what I'm saying is they won't do that because the cost would just make it'd be impossible. It'd be so hard to do. So they're making it out of billet because they can just start with a block of aluminum and make it in any machine shop in Europe and do it that way. But what I'm saying is just because the lower receiver says made in Italy doesn't mean the production gun is going to be made in Italy. They probably developed it. But John, like you said, like they make a bunch of knockoff guns, and a lot of those knockoff guns are they're not made in Italy. I'll tell you that. Just because the company's an Italian company doesn't, like, if this gun, I would be surprised if this gun doesn't get made in Turkey or somewhere. Like Charles Daly, like everything was made in Turkey. Or Eastern Bloc countries, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when it comes to AKs and stuff, but the AR is a different animal. I don't know. It's like people complain about the price of an FN SCAR, but one of the reasons why the FN SCAR is so expensive is because the import. Because you're making a gun in Belgium and shipping it to America, and that's going to add costs. It's going to add all kinds of costs to it because of the nightmare of importing firearms anymore.
Yet the rifle is fine.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. I guess we'll see and start showing up in the distributor system.
Is that a Geissele trigger on this thing?
No.
Propaganda. Hollywood instructed to demonize gun owners on screen.
Wait. Whitey, it's a Giuseppe trigger.
It's a.
That was good.
Hollywood Industry Group is encouraging film entertainment producers, executives, and writers to include anti-Second Amendment propaganda in television and film plots.
Prove it.
The Entertainment Industries Council, providing Hollywood insiders to include scenes that make gun ownership look like a bad idea. EIC claims this is part of its mission of, quote, encouraging the entertainment industry to more effectively address and accurately depict major health and social issues, end quote.
Oh, because I thought, that the Entertainment Industry Council, they're the experts on social issues that they cause. That's good.
They are, because their response was The Purge and like 5 sequels after.
Right. So clearly, they need to go the opposite and punch all these celebrities in the face that are currently pushing anti-gun propaganda and just being awful human beings.
I never understood that. Like, your job is to make movies and entertain me. I don't care what your politics are. Shut up.
Yeah,
Just
but
shut
many
up.
people do.
Yeah, but
I don't care what you think. Just
This
dance.
is a laundry list of things that they're asking, like consider having characters criminally charged for simply brandishing a firearm. Like this is bullet point after bullet point after bullet point. There's a lot of recommendations here, and they're all bad. They're all terrible.
Look at the bolded ones. Some of them are great. Consider depicting the reality that women are far more likely to be shot by husbands or lovers than by an intruder. Odds are that a gun in her home will be used against her rather than in her defense.
Was this written by Moms Demand Action?
It reads like it is. And this is from the Entertainment Industries Council. Like, who is this organization?
Consider depicting people as feeling less safe rather than more safe when they find their neighbors becoming increasingly armed.
Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. Like, these bullet points are well written. They are very detailed, and they're very, like, somebody put some effort into this, and it's well researched. It is.
Not only that, I can call out several movies where some of these have already been done, and it's laughable if that like would change somebody's mind.
Well, yeah. Like, consider portraying a gun manufacturer making the right decisions and choosing a design.
Yeah,
so we're gonna get Tony Stark wants to put a new minigun on his Iron Man suit, but he's like, well,
I need my SOT-7.
I should probably have a microchip embedding device, so only I can use the minigun when I'm wearing my Iron Man suit. This is ridiculous, but the thing is, this is dangerous. This is really dangerous misinformation.
Oh, yeah.
I would really like to know. I've never heard of this organization, the EIC. That, like, where do they get their guidance? Who's financing them? I don't know. It's scary. It's scary how well it's written, is what I'm saying. It's worth definitely looking at, because it's important for us to understand what the other side and the people that are on the fence when it comes to the Second Amendment, what they're seeing and what's influencing them. And this is one of those things that has the ability to influence millions of people or billions of people worldwide. Everybody watches American movies.
This is actually, it's laughable because consider occasionally having junk guns misfiring or jamming at critical times, as these guns are prone to do so after a period of use. How many movies have you seen this happen in?
Or somebody pulls out a Glock and you hear the hammer cocking sound. You know, that kind of nonsense, right?
Yeah, they made a safer firearm.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Consider having characters criminally charged for simply brandishing a firearm.
Like, I can see that, like, Law and Order. If you watch Law and Order for like the million years it's been on television, because that's like, it ties in like the law enforcement and the justice, and like, you know, from the crime to solving the crime to going to court. Like, I understand a lot of those scripts are written off actual events, right? Like, they're based off actual events. So, like, for a TV series like Law and Order, that's an appropriate venue for that. I've seen, you know, scripts, or I've seen episodes where they've based it off things that are actually reasonable. But for as often as they get it right, they get it wrong way more often. And like, I'm not a lawyer, but Adam, I don't know if you watch Law and Order or one of these crime dramas on TV, you probably see things that are wrong just from what they're saying and the statutes they're referencing and whatnot.
God, Law and
like just because you watch John Wick,
were like Law and Order, it would be way more fun.
But don't forget, there's a lot of people that watch movies and they get their firearms training from watching Hollywood. You know, it's like when Fast and Furious came out, everybody was doing burnouts out of the parking lot, leaving the theater. And it's like, you know, whenever a cool guy gun movie comes out, you know, like John Wick comes out, and people are like, I'm going to go learn jujitsu and do combat roles.
Relock. Hey, listen. So why don't we, as a community, push Hollywood to start, I don't know, portraying things that should actually be enforced? Like, I don't know, the ATF properly prosecuting people for things that they should have prosecuted years ago, or you know, the fact that legally transferring a gun to another person is okay in some states. Why don't we push that?
That would make sense. Stop doing that.
Because it goes against the agenda of demonizing firearms.
Oh, see, I'm
Amendment.
not a complete jerk, so I don't understand that. Let's move on, because this is frustrating.
All right. We're on to the I'm offended section, where there are stories that offend, well, maybe not me, but possibly you. We only have one in here this week. Police officer shoots off finger, sues gun store.
It's frustrating.
He got the arm.
It's so frustrating.
Whitey has a mannequin arm in his office.
For no reason at
all. Former Kentucky police officer suing a local gun shop after he shot his finger off in the store after a case of bad gun handling. Apparently the gun was loaded. Clerk didn't check. Officer didn't check. Officer pulled the trigger. Lost his finger.
How did that happen?
Well, they didn't follow any of the rules of gun safety, so.
Like it begets idiot.
I'll just pull it out of the counter here and hand it to you now.
Why was it even loaded under the counter?
Hey, listen. Oh, all right. So the cop immediately finger on the trigger. I'm watching a little video here and he's muzzling everybody down the line. That's good. That's typical gun store stuff. Then he muzzles the guy behind the counter with his finger on the trigger. That's also good. Yeah, play-by-play, this is a minute and 30. We're going to do this. So he's then inspecting it. Oh, he racked it, it appeared. So he must have put the round in the chamber. Then he pulled the trigger and shot his finger.
Commentary of the Year award goes to John from the Gun Collective.
Yeah, that's that kind of surprised me.
Luckily, it was only. Luckily, it was only a 380. Luckily, it was only a 380, so it only barely shot his finger off.
Only.
Yeah, he was lucky. He was lucky it wasn't a 45, because then it would have been one round to the ground.
Moral of the story: he didn't observe any of the basic firearm safety rules at all. Period.
And that's why they're there.
This whole story is just full of fail on everybody's part, both the cop and the gun store owner.
I thought police were the only ones qualified to.
Well, I tell you what, the 85-year-old woman behind the counter, whose name I assume is Pearl or Mabel, she probably didn't. She probably knows about as much about guns as the guy that shot his finger off.
So not for nothing, what kind of guy is buying a 380 that is a police officer that doesn't know what a gun feels like or sounds like when a round gets chambered?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Has he ever fired a gun that he needs a 380?
Probably once a year. That is qualified.
The thing is, like, for everybody that's ever worked in a gun store, like, I worked in a gun shop. Adam, you know, but almost everybody on the show. Whitey, you worked in a gun shop, didn't you? Or no?
Never.
Oh, should you be so lucky?
Like, I will be a homeless person living under a bridge before I ever work in a gun shop ever again. I'm going to tell you that right now, okay? Like, I will choose to go live off the land before taking that as my only option of employment. But, like, you see, so like, customers come in and they'll ask you, like, hey, do you have sights for blank and blank gun? And you're like, yes, I think what we do. And then they rapidly draw their pistol, their loaded pistol, and flag you with it. And then, like, yeah, I want to get new sights for this. Like, the most amazingly unsafe stuff all the time.
It's not loaded.
The round comes out.
Round comes out,
yeah. That's a good one.
And generally that's new shooters. It's not like people, it's inexperienced shooters,
Not always. Sometimes it's people who've been around guns for years.
Yeah,
not always. But here's the thing: you could be a gun owner for 40 years and you can still be inexperienced. You know what I mean? Like
you can also
your
still
gun,
be an idiot.
You can still be an idiot. Exactly.
So the best way for people that have not worked in a gun store, the best way to explain it is that once you step behind the counter, you are no longer a person.
You're just a moving target.
Yeah, no. I don't mean it like that. People forget that you are another person that they're flagging, because a lot of gun stores don't really have either they don't have a safe direction to point the gun, or they don't have employees that kind of guide people on that, and that's the huge thing. Like, I remember, that I would say, like, oh, point it over here, point it that way. If you're going to check it out, please don't stick it in my face. I actually I had an incident where I got super pissed at a customer one time because he kept, like, I was moving and he kept muzzling me, and I'm like, dude, you really, really need to stop that. Like, just stop, because I'm going to take the gun out of your hand. This is ridiculous.
What I used to do with people like that, like, if I had to tell you more than twice to stop muzzling me, unfortunately it's your job, so you can't be a dick to these people. So I would walk around the counter and stand next to them at the counter so we're facing the same direction. And that usually, like, kept me from getting flagged a lot more. But, like, it's miserable. It's just terrible. This whole thing is just miserable, so let's move on.
All right. Overflow, extra stories that you can talk about with us after the show if you support us via Patreon. So get a chance to talk about these in the after show. And there's a bunch of good ones in there, but we're not going to cover those this evening. So we're moving on. Amazon, contribute to the Firearms Radio Network and This Week in Guns by shopping Amazon with our affiliate link by clicking the Amazon banners on the website. And you can find the website at firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. Well, we're on to the full auto news segment, stories that the real media won't talk about and other crazy stuff, where each host picks a story to call their own. Who wants to go first? Anybody ready?
Nope.
No. All right. Well, in that case, I will just pick a random one here. We'll go with this. Would an AR make it this long buried in my backyard? A cache of 3,000-year-old weapons unearthed in Arabia. Bronze quiver full of arrows may have been offered to a warmongering god. Actually, this probably would have been perfect for Nate, but
where is? I'm not seeing this article. What
it's the first one.
Break.
Oh.
If you want, I'll leave that one for you. Seems right up your alley with war gods and whatnot.
I mean, I'm not a heathen. I don't like worship war gods, but it involves Arabs, so I probably shouldn't be the one to talk about this. You continue.
So French archaeologists found the weapons in a ruined Iron Age building, including a quiver of arrows, bows, battle axes, and daggers made of metal. They were thought to be ornamental and used as an offering to war god. They are small-scale models made from metal, thought to be purely ornamental. They were found inside the ruins of a building in 2009 near the Sultanate of Oman. They believe the weapons dated from 900 to 600 BC, were once displayed on shelves, furniture hung from walls before they fell off and were discovered, alongside ritualistic objects. These are actually pretty neat. So they found 5 bows, which were made at smaller scale than usual, made of metal, including a bronze string. So they're still digging up some cool stuff that apparently we haven't discovered everything from yesteryear yet.
I'm sure ISIS is on their way to that archaeological dig
to
site
destroy it
so they can wipe their own ancestry off the face of history.
You know what would be really interesting is if that was like kids' toys. Like that was a playroom or something. Just saying.
It's an interesting thought.
I'm ready, Adam.
All right, let's hear it.
Guy gets 18 months in prison for threatening to kill cops on Facebook. So he looks like an extra out of Breaking Bad. It's a 24-year-old guy out of, I guess, Albany, New York. And basically this dude went on social media and said things like some of these phrases: "Stash the salvation in my pocket, safety off, trigger finger cold and willing," and "Walk into Albany City Hall, smile at the uniform as I pass him in the hall, turn round, salvation speaks, a roaring sound, uniform goes down, no armor on the head, makes a corrupt cop dead." Hey, wow, this is just kind of filed under stuff you don't say out loud.
Yeah, but it rhymes, so it's okay.
It's poetry. I'm gonna get away with it because it's poetry.
Well,
So yeah, you can't say things like that, especially not on Facebook.
look at this guy. This guy looks like he's from the shallow end of the gene pool anyway. But
I mean, this is the kind of crap that, like, if it goes unreported, we have something really bad happen.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, like, I don't know if you guys saw, it's not on the list here, but there's this girl that made a comment on Twitter about she thinks that Trump should be assassinated. She was condoning assassinating Trump and his entire family, and she got fired from her job at a hospital over it, which she totally deserved to get fired over because she was making terroristic threats. Like, words are a precursor to action. So if you say stuff like this, that's something that, you know, can definitely be taken as a threat.
Agreed.
Yeah,
The world's full of stupid people. That's for sure.
Shortage, that's for sure.
So.
All right, Whitey, you ready?
He's muted.
I see that.
He's just being
laughing.
creepy with that.
Why is he smiling like that?
Romanian wife rips off her husband's testicles with her bare hands after he refused to help with the housework on International Women's Day. So, one, don't piss off a Romanian woman. She's had it harder than you ever, forever. Two, I guess he's been being paid in bottles of wine instead of actual money. So, because of that, they're broke and he drinks. You know, sounds like your traditional, you know, lower white class. Anyway, so apparently for not helping, for being a jerk and yada, 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 she accused him of not being a man. Got a good old fistful of the wedding tackle, and I guess he pulled away while she was being forceful, and he was rushed to the ER with an open... You know what? I don't know why I picked this one. This is pretty...
The picture of her leaning against the fence.
Yeah,
says
the caption.
That's like that grandma that'll cut you.
So I did it, and I'll do it again.
The mother of one from some county in Romania said she had not realized her own strength.
Yeah.
She has this like iron, pissed off look on her face as she's leaning against the fence.
She's like, I built this fence with these same hands.
I thought maybe some ice would solve the problem, but he insisted on calling an ambulance. He was pretty annoyed. Yeah, moderately.
Moderately. So I'll go. We have a canine back on the job after a brutal machete attack. So this story comes from Las Vegas Metro Police. Nikki is the name of the canine, the working dog. So this dog was attacked by a 36-year-old man by the name of, and I'm going to butcher this name, Tolavis Timmons, who was charged with multiple felons, including mangling this poor dog with a machete. So the dog received injuries to its face and had to receive some medical care, and now this Maligator is back on the beat. So the thing about the guy that attacked the dog was also charged with all kinds of other felonies. He's a bad guy, so he's in jail. He's in custody. He's not going to make bond. The dog, on the other hand, just turned 8 years old and has 2 years left. It is expected to serve 2 more years of service before it's retired. Apparently, a news crew caught up with Nikki, the service dog, and asked him about the attack. And Nikki commented, "I'm getting too old for this shit."
The timestamps.
2 years to retirement. So that's cool that the dog survived and is back on beat. I love Belgian Malinois and I love German Shepherds, so it's cool that the dog survived and is back to work. So I like that. It's a happy story.
I'm really excited to try and pronounce this guy's name. Tolavius? Tolavius?
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out.
So.
Lobbyist Timmons.
Anybody else got another story they want to cover?
What's a K gun?
Swedish K.
Swedish K. I can read this headline and we can just celebrate. Jared Fogle, the former representative of Subway sandwich shops,
Yes.
He got beat up in prison by a pedophile-hating inmate.
Yeah.
That's all. It's just a good, great, cool. Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Whitey.
I'm surprised that dude hasn't been shanked yet, man. I'm surprised he's still alive.
Yeah, well, we'll
Give
see.
it time. Maybe the pool of cigarettes isn't high enough yet.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
New Patreon perks, hang out with the hosts. That's right, you can spend time with us after the show. Just head over to patreon.com/week or click the link in the show notes and you can hang out with us after the show, apparently next week. So real soon, so head on over and pledge some money so you can hang out with us cool guys.
That's going to be really, really interesting because we get fired up.
It gets pretty bad after hours.
It'll be a good time. It'll be well worth your hard-earned money to hang out with us digitally, at least. Patriot Patch Co. Double Tapper T-shirt is now. Is this one available? Give me 1 second here. This one is available. It's a pretty slick-looking shirt.
I've got a couple of those. Those are awesome.
Yeah, Jake sends you some cool things. We also have some new Patriot Patch Company pre-orders live, including the Firearms Radio Network patch, which I'm going to have to get one, and the Patriot Patch Co. And there's some also pretty sweet ones up on that link as well, so be sure to check those out, support the show. So, what have you guys been up to this week? We'll start with you, Whitey. Catch you off guard there.
Whitey has been slacking off dramatically this week. By slacking off, it's mostly lots and lots of phone calls and emails and not nearly as much video and photo editing as he should be doing. The great news is that the extensions that we helped create with Falcor are back ordered 3 weeks and are not. People aren't stopping buying them. So it's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time because you want everybody to have the cool product. So let's see, there's that. I've already started on another project as well because I like to be busy. And that one will probably take a couple years to develop, so don't get your hopes up. And new reviews should be up Tuesday on RE Factor's new target sets. We've been releasing a bunch of the FGG member stuff, which has been very well received, which is, just salt in the wound. But all in all, just getting by, man. Just getting by.
Well, that's awesome. Can't wait to see what other stuff you are working on there. John, what have you been up to over at the Gun Collective?
Just smoking crack. No, seriously.
Let me guess. And killing time?
Yeah, killing time. No, I've been staying busy. I was just working with Nate Murr earlier today on some stuff, and yeah, just keeping the chains moving. Lots of content coming out all the time. Got a lot of projects in the works, and working on growing the team. So yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to.
Awesome. Well, we're always excited to see what comes out of the Gun Collective. The weekly news is probably one of everybody's favorite things.
Thanks, man.
It's crazy. I see you. I was browsing a Facebook group that's a large private group, and I saw somebody asked a question. They said, "Oh, I saw that on the Gun Collective last week," and they answered
really.
the question. Yeah, it was
pretty cool
actually. So Nate, what's going on? Go ahead.
I was gonna say this week's episode was pretty good, especially with that terrible holster.
And the bungee, the hair tie holster.
It was so terrible. You knocked it out of the park, though. You're spot on. This week's episode got me laughing pretty hard. So.
Yeah, I was a sarcastic jerk, but
Wait, that's different from every other week?
No, it's just.
Did you get an email from those people? I'm like, John's gonna get so much hate mail.
Not yet. I from time to time I'll get some feedback, like from companies that I've either crapped on or, been like kind of wishy-washy about, like certain products. I do get some feedback about it, but a lot of times the companies that I crap on or getting crapped on by everybody at every turn anyway. So it's not like I'm doing anything different. People on their social media, like they're the kinds of companies that won't allow extra external comments and all that sort of stuff on their YouTube videos. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, keep up the good fight. I'm digging it. So.
Thank you, sir.
Nate, what's going on over at KDG?
Crazy busy. I was out west all last week. I'm getting ready to head back out. I'm gonna be going down to the USASOC Army Sniper Competition down in Fort Bragg this coming week. So if we got any Fayetteville locals that want to come meet up with me, I'll be down there this coming week. That's always a good time. So just staying busy, trying to keep pushing that rock forward every day. So we got a lot of new products under development right now. We have a bunch of products getting ready to be released here in the next couple of weeks with Connect Development Group. So been doing a lot of testing and buttoning up the loose ends. So staying busy, no complaints.
Awesome. And I guess I myself have been busy with legal stuff.
What do you got going on in your world?
The sky is falling every which direction, and trying to figure out which way to run is starting to prove a little difficult. Biggest thing is the machine gun shoot's getting closer and closer. I'm putting in a lot of time to get that squared away. Got a bunch of vendors who've been signing up. Lancer Systems, 2A Armament has just signed up.
Oh, good.
So we got some sweet companies coming. The range is actually getting changed around a little bit. What was originally going to be the machine gun range, and this is really exciting actually, is now going to be the silencer range, which means the silencer range is going to be freaking obnoxiously large, and the machine gun range is going to be even bigger. So,
yeah.
So all they care about is shooting a gun from a zip line. That's the only reason I'm going, is to be able to shoot a gun from a zip line.
Well, you better sign up.
I'm stoked about that.
So the sign up or the information is up in the show notes under my name up at the top. We hope everybody comes and joins us. If you're in the eastern part of the country, and hell, if you want to drive even further, why not, right? It's a 2-day event. Right now it's $25 to get in for both days. At the door it'll be $40. But it's going to be a good time. I know I'm going to be there. I think John's going to be there. Nate's going to be there. Possibly Whitey's going to be there. So we're going to have a whole bunch
I'll be there.
Yep. See, so you can come hang out with us in person, and I promise we're usually genuinely nice people. Most of the time.
Get that
also, if you come out and let's say that you're wearing a Patriot patch item, you get to punch Jake Challen right in the face.
Yes, I have so many of those things.
I just made that up right now, but it's a thing.
You know what? We can actually have a booth for that.
A punching booth.
A punching booth. So, be sure to check that out. Come join us. It'll be a grand old time.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Shoot some MGs and demo some new stuff on the market that you might not otherwise be able to play with. So
imagine like Knob Creek, but better.
And in the northern part of the
country, not where it's
I'm
super hot.
DeVito's coming with me, actually.
Yeah, DeVito's coming down.
Monkey might be.
There's gonna be a bunch of people. It's gonna be a good time.
So we're working on getting a list of the vendors who have said that they'll be there up on the website. That should be coming in the next week or so. But be sure to check that out. There are more that continue to sign up every day, so it'll be a grand old time. So you guys can leave your feedback below by commenting on the bottom of this YouTube video or the bottom of the show notes at thisweekinguns.com/episodes. Leave us a review in iTunes or contribute to the show by using our Firearms Radio Network Amazon affiliate link. That's all we got for this week. Thank you, Whitey, for joining us.
Pleasure to be here, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, John.
Hey, Adam. Thanks.
And thank you, Nate.
Always a pleasure. Good to see you guys.
Nice to see you guys, too, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.